All right. Hello and welcome. Hopefully you're a repeat. So welcome again to my podcast and my YouTube channel. I am remembering to press record today. So thank you so much for listening. And as always, I hope that I am sharing some of my knowledge, my expertise, my experience with you to somehow make your wedding day images, your wedding day photo experience even better. Let me just remind you that if you are enjoying my podcast, you might also love my book. It's available on Amazon. I will include a link to that in the show notes. So I just want to give you guys a quick update to the Antonians Award celebration. I mentioned that in Tuesday's episode. So what are the Antonians? The Antonians is a gala that is hosted by my local chapter of the International Live Events Association. It is a fundraiser that we hold pretty much every year. There was a pause during COVID, but we resumed it this January, and we take submissions for awards, we sell tickets for general admission, and it's a huge deal for our local wedding and events industry. We use the funds that we raise to operate. We award scholarships, or we haven't in a while, but we used to award scholarships for someone from the industry to attend ILEA Live that travels around the United States. That's the big ILEA national, international conference that happened every year. It's been virtual now for a couple of years. And also we use the money to support local charities in our community. So the submission for the awards is local to our community, but it's also used as a warm-up to enter into regional ILEA awards events that happen, and then ultimately into the international ILEA award competitions. And I submitted to three categories, like I told y'all Tuesday. If you listen to that episode, I submitted for the best creative solution, and I lost to a local event planning company called All in the Details. And I believe they took home 3 trophies from Tuesday night. I also submitted to best micro wedding or elopement. And in that one, I lost to Sarah Walker Events, and they took home 5 trophies Tuesday night. And both of those companies just showed up and showed out. I mean, they were just hauling home trophies. Like I think they both rented like U-Haul trucks or something to take home all the trophies that they won that night. They were just spectacular. Finally, the last category that I had submitted for, it came up, the third one that I had submitted for, was best industry contribution. And what I submitted for that category was this podcast and the book I wrote. And finally, I won. And I believe there were 2 other submissions that made it to the final round of that category. And so I was really like on pins and needles. Am I going to get to bring home a trophy tonight or not? And finally won a category. So just shout out to everyone in my local San Antonio area who submitted for an award, and a special shout out to everyone who took home a trophy. We all work hard to do the very best job for our clients, and I know everyone who submitted to these awards worked especially hard to try to get some recognition for what we do day in and day out. So just a huge shout out to everyone who participated. All right, so let's jump into today's topic. My top 10 reasons for having a bridal session. So if you're not from the South and this doesn't apply to the whole Southern United States. There's only a couple of states that even know what a bridal session is. So if you're not from a state that actually partakes in bridal sessions, if you're not accustomed to this tradition, let me tell you what a bridal session is. A bridal session is a special portrait session for the bride only. So the groom doesn't participate in this, and it's ahead of the wedding day. And if there were two brides, if this was an LGBTQ wedding, two brides could certainly both do this. But generally, this is when there is a bride and groom couple, the bride partakes in this bridal session. And the goal of the bridal session is just to get some very creative portraits that probably could not be accomplished on wedding day, because these are generally an hour and a half to a 3-hour portrait session. And the result is to get some large printed wall art, either canvases or some type of portrait that will ultimately hang on the couple's wall. But the initial use for these large wall arts are to be unveiled at the reception, so that when all the family and guests are coming in, they're just wowed by these beautiful portraits that were made of the bride. They eventually, like I said, they after the reception, they're hung in the couple's home on their wall, and then eventually they become heirlooms that are passed down from generation to generation. And this might be a little morbid talking about this right now, but I have even seen older bridal portraits used at funerals, say like in the foyer of the funeral home next to like the sign-in book. And again, this is primarily a thing that is done in the Southern United States, but I think that it could be beneficial to brides all around the world because, well, we'll get into that. So why would you want to do this? So let me tell you the 10 reasons that I think it could be beneficial for you, or again, for brides all around the world. You know, and let me just go out on a limb and say that this might be beneficial for grooms too. Maybe all these top 10 reasons won't apply to you, but some of them are certainly could be applicable to grooms. So reason number 1, heirloom. Every bride needs a printed portrait, a beautiful, artful, like an artisan print, a fine art print of her in her dress. And if you're going to have daughters or nieces or even sons and nephews, they are going to treasure this heirloom of you. You know, they might even, if you only have one printed and you have more than one daughter, or if you decide not to have children, or for some reason you're not blessed with children and you end up having just nieces or nieces and nephews, this may be something that they end up arm wrestling over or fighting over, because it really does become a family heirloom. Reason number 2, you can show off. You can really take these portraits, if they are a fine art portrait and they were printed in a really good way from a really reputable printer, you can show them off at your reception and you can really become the center of attention. Reason number 3, a glimpse of totality. And what I mean by that is that you will not only get to see how you look in your dress with all of the accessories that you have picked out, you will also get to experience how your dress fits and how easy it will be to wear for longer periods of time. When you tried it on, chances are you might have only had it on for 10 or 20 minutes, but during this bridal portrait session, you're going to have it on for a much longer period of time, something more resembling your wedding day. So for, like I said, an hour and a half up to 3 hours. And you're going to discover when, where, and how often that you're going to have to pull and readjust and tug or reposition parts of your dress or the underlying tulle. And you're going to find out if the tulle underneath your dress is too scratchy for your legs. You're going to know if the bra you selected is going to work, or even if you're going to be able to wear underwear with your dress. You're going to discover if you can breathe in your dress, if you can walk, dance, sit, kneel, bend over, basically anything besides stand straight up in your dress. You're going to know if your girls are going to pop out the top of the bustier or sink down in the bottom. And you're going to know if your dress is going to require additional alterations because you've really, really worn this thing like it needs to be worn to really know it inside and out. No pun intended. Reason number 4, truth. The images from your bridal session will let you know exactly how you look in your dress from all angles. And if by chance you don't like what you see, you'll still have time to make an emergency pivot. Reason number 5, personality check. You're going to be spending the majority of your wedding day with your photographer. And if you didn't have an engagement session, a bridal portrait session can either be your first opportunity or hopefully your second opportunity to really make sure that your personality doesn't clash with your photographer's personality. Because if you don't really love your photographer, you're not going to love your wedding day images. You are going to feel the same way about your wedding images, the same way you feel about your photographer. There's no way around that. Make sure that you love your photographer's personality, because again, if you cannot stomach your photographer's character, you will, and you find this out during the bridal session or during that engagement session, again, this is going to allow you time to make an emergency pivot, fire that photographer, and then hire someone else for your wedding day. Reason number 6, confidence. Having completed this bridal session and getting comfortable in front of your photographer's lens is going to give you all the confidence in the world for your wedding day. There's not going to be any questions like, where do I look? What do I do with my hands? You will already know. You're going to be very familiar with the way that the photographer poses you and how they give you direction and all of the tips and secrets that your photographer shares with you, because you're already going to be a seasoned pro for your wedding day. Reason number 7, time. Having a portrait session prior to your wedding day could actually save you precious minutes in your wedding day timeline. Being that these portraits have already been taken prior to your wedding day, you can dedicate that photo time to other things like a first look or bride and groom creative portrait sessions. And you can designate more time on your wedding day to other times that or to something else that means more to you. Number 8, I'm going to again say more time. A bridal portrait session will allow you and your photographer to really take your time capturing these beautiful images. And having a bridal portrait session independent of your wedding day will allow for a more relaxed session and a lot less stress. You know, if you give them an hour and a half independent of your wedding day, or 3 hours independent of your wedding day to capture these amazing portraits of you in your dress, that is going to result in a lot better images than if you give them 15 minutes on your wedding day. I promise you. Number 9, creativity. An entire session dedicated solely to bridal portraits permits even more creativity and imagination to happen organically. And your photographer will be super appreciative of not having to run around just running and gunning on your wedding day with the pressure to capture award-winning hero shots of you in your dress. More time can be dedicated to grabbing artful images of both you and your partner on your wedding day. And my last reason is number 10, a taste test. Again, if you haven't already had the pleasure or the opportunity of having a preview with your hair and makeup artist, this will give you a chance to taste test your wedding day beauty look. You will not only be able to see what your hair and makeup is going to look like on your wedding day, you are going to find out how long it will take to achieve this look, and you're going to discover what kind of staying power that your hair and makeup look has. You're going to know how well it covers all your blemishes, how long your lashes are going to stay on, how long your hair is going to stay in place, how long your curls last, or how long before your skin is oily and shiny, if that's a problem for you. So those are my top 10 reasons. Let's talk about a few reasons why you would not or could not want to do this. Number 1, and this is probably the most popular reason why I get feedback from brides who don't want to do this, because they don't want to get their dress dirty before their wedding day. So that is a real concern. And I always just tell them, just accept that the dress is going to get a little bit dirty, but you can take extra care for that not to happen. I travel with a clear shower curtain or a white shower curtain in the back of my car, and I use that anytime I'm going to set the bride on the ground, or if they have an exceptionally long train, or anytime that a lot of the dress is going to be on the ground, I just place that underneath it so that we're not making a lot of contact with a dirty surface, so that we take special care not to get it too dirty. But I always just ask them to resolve to the fact that it is going to get a little bit dirty. And if they're completely uncomfortable with that, then most likely those are my brides who are not going to do the bridal session. Number 2, you don't like attention. You don't like to be in the spotlight. And I don't have a good answer for this other than you could ask your photographer to take you to a completely secluded location, or you could rent out a private location so that there's no onlookers Sometimes your venue will work if they are not going to be doing any tours during your bridal session, or Airbnbs are a great idea for this. Number 3, budget. If it's not in your budget to have a lot of extra portrait sessions ahead of your wedding day, my advice would be to shop for a photographer who has extra portrait sessions built into their collections. So if this interests you, but you have a smaller budget, just look for some of these photographers who have all-inclusive collections, and maybe you can get your bridal portrait session that way. And my last reason that you might not could do this is that you didn't plan properly, or that you don't plan properly. So you hired your photographer too late in the game, or you sent your dress you sent your dress to alterations too late, or you bought your dress too late. So your bridal portrait session should happen in the window of 2 to 4 months before your wedding day, especially if you're going to want to receive back those printed products, that large wall art to display in your reception. These bridal portrait sessions have to be done after your alterations are complete. Ooh, sorry, had a little itchy nose there. I forgot to share my trophy with you. I have it right here. All right. So in closing, guys, I absolutely love bridal sessions. It gives me a solid chance to know one half, in most cases, sometimes all of my couple, the complete couple, even better, a second time before a wedding if we had an engagement session as well. And why I love bridal sessions so much, because it allows my couple to, the result is that my couple ends up with way better images for their wedding day, because they feel so much more relaxed and comfortable with my camera in their face. And when the rest of the bridal party sees that the bride's guard is down, they start to mimic that, which results in more real photos, more authentic photos, more candid photojournalistic moments that are not scripted. And that's the way that I photograph my weddings. That's when you get all those great candid photojournalistic images of your wedding party being their authentic selves. And then this thing carries over to the reception, when all of your family and guests get to see the couple and all of the wedding party getting very comfortable and relaxed and being crazy in front of the camera. And excuse me, then the family and the rest of the guests become like little copy machines doing the same thing, letting their guard down and becoming their real selves in front of the camera. And this just equates to spectacular images. So I highly recommend having as many portrait sessions with your photographer as you can afford prior to your wedding day. That way, they are much more like a friend showing up with a camera to your wedding, and a lot less like a hired vendor. And you benefit from that because you get much better images, I promise. So if you want to support the show or just buy me a coffee, there's a link in the show notes to support the show. Just hit that and follow the prompts. I would appreciate it. If you love this episode, I would appreciate if you just share a quick screenshot on your Instagram, to your stories, your wall, wherever, and tag either Complete Wedding Ed or Add a Girl Photo. or just tell some of your engaged friends about me or the podcast or the book. I would appreciate that. Also, you can visit my websites, Complete Wedding Ed or Add a Girl Photo. Again, all those links are in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope that you have a wildly fun day. I will catch you next time. Adios.